The tragic possibility that Prince George will need to step into the role of monarch sooner rather than later looms larger and larger, due to the maladies senior royals are currently suffering. But what would happen if the young prince became king before reaching adulthood? The notion of having a child take on the role of a monarch seems ridiculous in this day and age. Of course, in the past, things worked a little differently, and child monarchs did exist on rare occasions. The most notable of the child kings was Scotland's King James VI before the crowns of Scotland and England were merged. He became king when he was only 13 months old. So what happens when a child ascends the throne? Well, in Prince George's case, he would be known as the King of England, but he wouldn't undertake any official royal duties. Instead, one of the senior members of the royal family will become the regent and shoulder the monarch's responsibilities on his behalf. Hopefully, this isn't a scenario in which the British monarchy will ever find itself. Regardless, royal author Robert Hardman told The Mirror that Prince William and Princess Catherine are doing everything in their power to equip George for his future role. Palace veterans have said that despite George being prepped for his future role as king, his parents would like to delay his official duties until he's, quote, well into his 20s. The Regency Act was established by the British Parliament in 1937, and a monarch ascending the throne before the age of 18 is just one of the scenarios it addresses. Other instances covered under the Regency Act are when the monarch becomes unable to fulfill their duties due to illness or other limitations, or when they are abroad for an extended period of time. The most prominent regency occurred in the 19th century when King George III was declared incapable of fulfilling his royal duties due to his declining mental health. In George III's case, his son became Prince Regent and only ascended the throne when his father died. Funny enough, he was also named George.
Too many!
While regents hold plenty of power, there are some things they cannot do, such as alter the line of succession. The regency usually falls to the person who is next in line to the throne, given they're 21 or older. This means if George becomes king before the age of 18, his younger siblings can't become regent, and the role will fall to one of the other senior members of the royal family. If Prince George becomes king before he turns 18, the Regency Act would dictate that the person in line to become regent would be Prince Harry. However, as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle abruptly left the royal family in 2020, that adds some serious complication to the royal procedures in this situation. Even though Harry would be regent, the Regency Act stipulates that the prince must be domiciled in the United Kingdom to take on this role. Domicile refers to a person's permanent residence. So even though Harry is currently living in the United States, his domicile remains the UK, unless he becomes a permanent US resident. Notably, in April 2024, Harry did send paperwork to the palace stating that he is, quote, usually resident in the US. However, immigration experts told The Mirror that usually resident doesn't mean the prince has been granted permanent residence in the States. This technically means that Harry could still become regent if he returned home. If not, the regency would fall to Prince Andrew, whose controversial friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein makes him a less than favorable choice as well. When King Charles III became the new monarch, he petitioned Parliament to amend the Regency Act to allow other members of the royal family to step in as councillors of state should he become temporarily incapacitated. To be clear, councillors of state and regents aren't the same thing. A regent is appointed when the monarch is underage or becomes permanently incapacitated. The Regency Act stipulates that only those down the line of succession can step into the role of regent. Councillors of state, however, are appointed when the monarch is temporarily incapacitated, and they don't necessarily need to be potential successors to the throne. Previously, the role of councillors of state would have fallen to Prince Andrew or Prince Harry. With the amended act, however, the responsibility will fall first to Princess Anne and Prince Edward before Andrew and Harry are considered. This might mean that if Prince George becomes king before he turns 18, and Prince Harry becomes regent but finds himself temporarily unable to fulfill his duties, Anne or Edward would step into their roles as councillors of state and temporarily run things in his absence.
The King personally requested the pair to be added to the list of those who can deputise for him after Princes Andrew and Harry stepped down as working royals.
Many have posed the question of whether or not Princess Catherine would be allowed to step in as regent should Prince George become king before he comes of age. Unlike many of the details regarding this situation, the answer here is a definite no unless the Regency Act is significantly amended in the near future. While Catherine is the queen-in-waiting, she is not a direct descendant of the royal family, which means the Regency Act excludes her completely. There's a whole slew of royal family members in the line of succession who can step up as regent should Prince Harry decide not to return to help out the family. Still, many of these royals aren't even working members of the monarchy, and Catherine would likely have a lot more experience running things than they do. Many seem to have considered this, with politicos speculating whether or not Parliament might amend the Regency Act to include Catherine as a possible regent should tragedy strike. This, of course, cannot be ruled out completely, seeing as Parliament amended the Act to accommodate King Charles III's choice of councillors of state. Regent or not, Catherine would remain a member of the monarchy if something happened to Prince William. She would most likely continue to support Prince George and prepare him for his duties as monarch and continue to play a key role in the kind of king he becomes. When the time comes for Prince George to ascend the throne, he'll be ready. At least, that's what Hardman told People. According to Hardman, George's childhood is very different from his grandfather's, as he is being eased into the idea of one day becoming the monarch instead of simply being told his destiny. According to the royal author, William and Catherine want to make sure George doesn't find the prospect of becoming king scary. In his book Charles III, New King, New Court, the author claims that Prince William is taking his responsibility of raising the future king seriously and works hard to give George the training he needs to be prepared to take on the crown. That is, of course, if George decides he wants it. While abdication is likely considered a dirty word in the royal family's vocabulary, Prince George could decide to forfeit the crown when it passes to him. This is certainly not an ancient tradition, as Queen Elizabeth II's uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne in 1936 and was succeeded by his brother. Thus, the possibility remains that George might not want to be part of all the pomp and circumstance the monarchy brings. If he chooses to step back from his role to lead a quieter life like his Uncle Harry, he would have the freedom to do so, and the crown would pass to his sister, Princess Charlotte.